Her name was Captain Sarah Chen, and she had dedicated 12 years of her life to serving her country in the United States Marine Corps. While she was deployed overseas defending freedom, her stepmother sold every single item that belonged to her deceased father, including his Purple Heart and Bronze Star medals. So, Sarah bought her stepmother's dream house for cash, moved in, and served her an eviction notice on Christmas morning. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Sarah Chen was born in 1985 in the small coastal town of Seaside, Oregon, where the Pacific Ocean's relentless waves crashed against rugged cliffs and the salty air carried the scent of cedar and sea spray through neighborhoods of modest homes and weathered fishing boats. Her father, Master Sergeant David Chen, was a career Marine who had served 3 tours in Vietnam and 2 in the Gulf War, before settling into a role as a drill instructor at the nearby Marine Corps training facility in Pendleton. David Chen represented everything that Sarah would later come to understand about honor, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to principles that transcended personal comfort or convenience. He was a man of few words but profound actions, whose presence commanded respect without demanding attention, and his approach to life emphasized duty, integrity, and the kind of quiet strength that builds character through consistent daily choices rather than dramatic gestures. The small house where Sarah spent her early childhood was located on Elm Street, 3 blocks from the harbor where commercial fishing boats returned each evening with their daily catch. The neighborhood consisted primarily of military families, commercial fishermen, and blue-collar workers whose lives revolved around the rhythms of military schedules, fishing seasons, and the practical necessities of raising families on modest incomes in a town where opportunity was limited but community bonds were strong. David had purchased the house in 1983, 2 years before Sarah's birth, using his military savings and a Veterans Administration loan to secure a modest 2-bedroom structure that needed significant repairs but offered the stability and permanence he wanted to provide for his growing family. The house became a reflection of David's methodical approach to life improvement, with each room gradually renovated through his own labor during leave periods and weekends when military duties permitted. Sarah's mother, Linda Chen, was a registered nurse who worked at the Seaside Community Hospital, managing the emergency department during night shifts that allowed her to care for Sarah during the day while David was at the base. Linda had met David during his recovery from injuries sustained during his final Gulf War deployment, when he was being treated at the Naval Hospital in San Diego, where she worked as a trauma nurse. Their courtship had been brief but intense, built on mutual respect for each other's dedication to service and shared values about family, duty, and the importance of building something meaningful together despite the challenges and uncertainties that military life inevitably created. Linda had grown up in a military family herself, understanding the sacrifices and adjustments required to maintain stability while supporting a career that demanded frequent separations, relocations, and the constant possibility of dangerous deployments. The early years of Sarah's childhood were characterized by the kind of structured routine and clear expectations that reflected David's military background and Linda's medical training. Meals were served at specific times, household responsibilities were clearly defined and consistently enforced, and academic achievement was expected rather than merely encouraged. However, this structure was balanced by genuine warmth, family activities, and the kind of unconditional support that allowed Sarah to develop confidence and independence within clearly established boundaries. David approached parenting with the same systematic attention to detail that had made him an effective military leader. He taught Sarah to maintain her bicycle, organize her school supplies, and complete assigned tasks thoroughly rather than hastily. More importantly, he demonstrated through his own behavior the importance of keeping commitments, treating others with respect regardless of their position or status, and maintaining personal standards even when no one was watching. Weekend mornings often included family projects where David would teach Sarah basic home maintenance skills, explaining how to use tools properly, understand simple mechanical principles, and approach problems systematically rather than impulsively. These sessions were educational but also provided opportunities for conversation and bonding that strengthened their relationship while building Sarah's confidence in her ability to understand and master practical challenges. Linda's influence on Sarah's development was equally significant, but expressed through different approaches that complemented David's more structured methods. Linda emphasized creativity, emotional intelligence, and the importance of understanding and helping others who face difficulties or challenges beyond their control. Her work in emergency medicine provided daily exposure to human suffering and resilience that shaped her perspective on what truly mattered in life. Evening conversations at the dinner table often included discussions of current events, historical topics, and ethical questions that encouraged Sarah to think critically about complex issues while developing her own opinions and values. Linda would describe cases she had encountered at the hospital, carefully omitting identifying details while discussing the medical and social factors that contributed to various health emergencies and the ways that community support could influence patient outcomes. These conversations introduced Sarah to concepts about social responsibility, the interconnectedness of individual and community well-being, and the importance of contributing positively to society through both professional achievements and personal character. Linda was teaching Sarah to understand that success was not merely about individual accomplishment, but about using whatever talents and opportunities she possessed to help others and strengthen the communities where she lived and worked. The financial circumstances of the Chen family were modest but stable, reflecting the realities of military and medical salaries in a small town where cost of living was reasonable but economic opportunities were limited. David's military pay provided steady income and comprehensive benefits, while Linda's nursing salary contributed additional resources that allowed the family to maintain their home, save for Sarah's future education, and occasionally enjoy simple pleasures like family vacations to national parks or weekend trips to visit relatives in California. Money was never abundant, but it was managed carefully through budgeting practices that emphasized saving for long-term goals while meeting immediate needs responsibly. David maintained detailed financial records and involved Sarah in age-appropriate discussions about budgeting, the importance of avoiding debt, and the satisfaction that came from purchasing things only after saving enough money to afford them without compromising other financial obligations. Sarah's academic performance at Seaside Elementary School was consistently excellent, reflecting both natural intelligence and the study habits that David and Linda had carefully cultivated through their emphasis on preparation, attention to detail, and the completion of all assigned work before recreational activities. Her teachers regularly commented on her maturity, work ethic, and willingness to help classmates who struggled with difficult concepts or assignments. The small-town school environment provided opportunities for Sarah to develop leadership skills and diverse interests that might not have been available in larger, more competitive educational settings. She participated in student government, academic competitions, and community service projects while maintaining friendships with children from various family backgrounds and circumstances. Mrs. Patricia Morrison, Sarah's third-grade teacher, recognized exceptional analytical abilities and recommended that Sarah be tested for the district's Accelerated Learning Program. The assessment process revealed intellectual capabilities that placed Sarah among the highest-performing students in the region, leading to placement in advanced coursework that provided appropriate academic challenges while maintaining her connections to the local school community. David and Linda approached these educational opportunities with characteristic thoughtfulness, ensuring that academic advancement would complement rather than replace the character development and community involvement they considered equally important for Sarah's long-term success and happiness. They wanted Sarah to excel academically while maintaining the kind of balanced perspective that would allow her to contribute meaningfully to whatever communities she eventually joined as an adult. The summers of Sarah's elementary school years were filled with activities that reflected both her parents' interests and the opportunities available in their coastal community. David would take Sarah on camping trips to the Cascade Mountains, teaching her outdoor survival skills, navigation techniques, and appreciation for the natural environment that Oregon offered in abundance. These expeditions were educational adventures that built self-reliance while strengthening their father-daughter relationship through shared challenges and discoveries. Linda organized volunteer activities at the hospital and community organizations that introduced Sarah to healthcare environments and social service work. Sarah would help organize supply closets, assist with patient comfort activities, and participate in community health education programs that demonstrated the importance of service while providing exposure to potential career interests. These diverse experiences contributed to Sarah's developing sense of purpose and social responsibility while building practical skills and knowledge that would prove valuable throughout her subsequent educational and professional development.
David and Linda were providing comprehensive preparation for adult life that emphasized competence, character, and commitment to contributing positively to society. The stability and happiness of Sarah's early childhood was fundamentally disrupted when Linda was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer during Sarah's 7th grade year. The diagnosis came after months of symptoms that Linda had initially attributed to work stress and the physical demands of her nursing schedule, but which ultimately required extensive medical evaluation that revealed an aggressive malignancy requiring immediate and intensive treatment. The cancer diagnosis transformed every aspect of the Chen family's daily life and long-term planning. Linda's treatment required frequent trips to Portland for specialized oncology care, extensive time away from work that reduced the family's income, and the kind of physical and emotional challenges that tested every foundation of strength and unity they had built over their years together. David approached Linda's illness with the same systematic determination he brought to military challenges, researching treatment options, coordinating with medical providers, and reorganizing family responsibilities to ensure that Linda could focus on recovery while Sarah's needs continued to be met effectively. He took leave from his military duties whenever possible to accompany Linda to medical appointments and provide support during treatment procedures. Sarah's response to her mother's illness demonstrated the maturity and resilience that David and Linda's parenting had cultivated. She took on additional household responsibilities without complaint, maintained her academic performance despite emotional stress and family disruption, and provided emotional support to both parents while processing her own fears and uncertainties about the future. The treatment process was both physically and financially exhausting. Linda's medical expenses exceeded what military and civilian insurance coverage provided, requiring the family to use their savings and seek additional financial assistance through various military and community support programs. David worked additional hours whenever possible to generate extra income while managing increased household responsibilities and supporting Linda through the challenges of chemotherapy and radiation treatments. Despite comprehensive medical treatment and the family's total commitment to supporting Linda's recovery, the cancer proved more aggressive than initially hoped. Linda's condition deteriorated during the spring of Sarah's 8th grade year, and she passed away on a quiet Tuesday morning in May, surrounded by David and Sarah in the same hospital where she had dedicated years of her life to helping others during their most vulnerable moments. Linda's death was devastating for both David and Sarah, but particularly challenging for David, who had never imagined the possibility of raising his daughter alone during her crucial teenage years. The grief was compounded by practical concerns about maintaining the household, supporting Sarah's continued academic and personal development, and managing the financial pressures that Linda's medical treatment and lost income had created. The military community and Seaside neighbors provided substantial support during this difficult period, organizing meal preparation, household assistance, and childcare that allowed David to manage his professional responsibilities while ensuring that Sarah's needs were met effectively. However, the long-term challenges of single parenthood while maintaining a demanding military career created stresses that required significant adjustments to David's previous plans and expectations. Sarah's academic performance remained strong despite the emotional challenges of losing her mother, but her social relationships and extracurricular involvement were affected by the grief and increased household responsibilities she had assumed. David worried that Sarah was taking on too much responsibility for maintaining family stability rather than focusing on the typical social and developmental activities that characterize healthy adolescence.
During the summer following Linda's death, David made the difficult decision to seek additional support for Sarah's care and household management. Through connections within the military community, he met Victoria Hartwell, a recently divorced elementary school teacher whose own children were grown and independent. Victoria had been married to a Navy officer for 15 years before their divorce, providing her with understanding of military life and the challenges facing single parents in service families. Victoria was an attractive and seemingly compassionate woman in her early 40s who had moved to Seaside after her divorce to start fresh in a community where her ex-husband's reputation and their shared history would not influence her social relationships or professional opportunities. She had accepted a teaching position at the local elementary school and was actively involved in community organizations that served military families and children facing difficult circumstances. The relationship between David and Victoria developed gradually over several months of casual social interaction through community events and mutual friends. Victoria appeared genuinely caring toward Sarah, demonstrating interest in her academic achievements and offering practical support with household tasks and social activities that David struggled to manage while maintaining his military responsibilities. Victoria's teaching background seemed to qualify her for understanding and supporting Sarah's educational needs, while her military community involvement suggested shared values about service, duty, and the importance of strong family relationships. David found her companionship emotionally supportive during a period when grief and single parenthood had created isolation and overwhelming responsibility. After 8 months of courtship, David and Victoria were married in a small ceremony at the base chapel, attended by military colleagues, community friends, and Sarah, who had developed what appeared to be a positive relationship with her prospective stepmother. Victoria moved into the Elm Street house, bringing her own belongings and immediately beginning efforts to create a blended family environment that honored Linda's memory while establishing new traditions and routines. The initial period of the marriage seemed successful from external perspectives. Victoria appeared supportive of Sarah's academic and extracurricular activities, maintained the household efficiently, and provided David with emotional companionship that allowed him to feel more balanced and effective in his dual roles as Marine and father. Sarah's grades improved slightly, and she began participating in additional school activities that Victoria encouraged and helped coordinate. However, subtle changes in family dynamics began occurring that were not immediately apparent to David, who was often absent due to military training requirements and who trusted Victoria's reports about household and family matters. Victoria began implementing rules and expectations that differed from the standards David and Linda had established, particularly regarding Sarah's independence, social relationships, and involvement in family decision-making. Victoria's teaching background had provided her with skills for managing children in classroom settings, but her approach to family relationships emphasized control and hierarchy rather than the collaborative and respectful interaction that had characterized Sarah's previous family experience. She viewed Sarah's strong personality and independent thinking as challenges to her authority rather than positive characteristics to be nurtured and guided. The differences were initially minor and easily rationalized as normal adjustments required for successful family blending. Victoria would make scheduling decisions without consulting Sarah, implement household rules that hadn't been discussed with David, and respond to Sarah's questions or suggestions with subtle dismissiveness that undermined her confidence without creating obvious conflicts that David would notice during his limited time at home. Sarah began feeling increasingly uncomfortable in her own home, but struggled to articulate specific concerns that would justify complaining to David about Victoria's behavior. The changes were gradual enough that Sarah questioned whether her discomfort was reasonable or whether she was simply resisting necessary adjustments to new family circumstances. Victoria was careful to maintain positive interactions with David while gradually establishing patterns of control and emotional manipulation in her relationship with Sarah. She would present herself as the reasonable adult, dealing with typical teenage difficulties while portraying Sarah's responses to her controlling behavior as evidence of immaturity or disrespect that required firmer discipline and reduced privileges. The situation became more problematic during David's longer training deployments when Victoria's behavior toward Sarah became more openly controlling and critical without the moderating influence of David's presence. Victoria would implement restrictions on Sarah's social activities, criticize her academic performance despite continued excellence, and respond to any questioning of her decisions with emotional manipulation that made Sarah feel guilty for causing family tension. Sarah's attempts to discuss these concerns with David during phone conversations were complicated by her desire to avoid creating additional stress for him while he was dealing with demanding military responsibilities. She also struggled with uncertainty about whether her concerns were legitimate or whether Victoria's behavior was within normal ranges of step-parent authority and adjustment difficulties. The pattern continued throughout Sarah's freshman year of high school, with Victoria gradually consolidating control over household decisions and family relationships while maintaining the appearance of supportive step-parenting to David and external observers. Sarah's academic performance remained strong, but her relationship with David became more distant as Victoria inserted herself into their communications and interactions. By the time Sarah began her sophomore year, the family dynamics had shifted significantly from the open, respectful, and collaborative relationships that had characterized her childhood. Victoria had established herself as the primary decision-maker for family matters, while Sarah felt increasingly like a guest in her own home rather than a valued family member whose opinions and preferences deserved consideration.
The transformation was gradual enough that David didn't recognize the extent of the changes, particularly since Victoria was careful to maintain positive surface relationships while systematically undermining the foundation of trust and mutual respect that had previously existed between David and Sarah. The situation would continue to deteriorate until external events forced recognition of the fundamental problems that Victoria's presence had created within the family. Sarah's sophomore year at Seaside High School marked the beginning of her serious consideration of military service, both an escape from her increasingly difficult home situation and a positive path toward independence and meaningful career opportunities.
The school's Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program was led by retired Marine Colonel James Patterson, whose teaching approach emphasized leadership development, personal responsibility, and service to community and nation. Colonel Patterson recognized Sarah's leadership potential and academic excellence during her first semester in the JROTC program. Her performance in both classroom instruction and practical leadership exercises demonstrated capabilities that exceeded typical high school student levels and suggested strong potential for success in military academies or officer training programs. Sarah found the JROTC environment provided the kind of structured expectations and merit-based recognition that had been missing from her home life since Victoria's arrival. Colonel Patterson's teaching emphasized the same values that David had instilled during her childhood, creating consistency and validation that helped Sarah maintain confidence in her own character and capabilities despite the ongoing emotional challenges at home. The military science coursework introduced Sarah to topics including military history, national defense strategy, leadership principles, and citizenship responsibilities that captured her intellectual interest while connecting to family traditions of service that remained meaningful despite current family difficulties. She excelled in written assignments, practical exercises, and leadership responsibilities that provided objective evidence of her capabilities and potential. Colonel Patterson began providing Sarah with additional mentorship and advanced training opportunities that prepared her for potential military academy applications or other pathways to military officer development. He recognized that her family circumstances were challenging, but believed that military service could provide both personal fulfillment and professional opportunities that would allow her to build a meaningful career while serving her country. Sarah's involvement in JROTC also provided social connections with peers who shared interests in military service and leadership development. The program created a community of students who valued discipline, academic achievement, and service to others, providing friendships that supported Sarah's continued development despite the isolation she felt at home. During her junior year, Sarah began seriously researching military academy options and officer training programs that could provide pathways to military careers without requiring financial support from her family. The United States Naval Academy, Military Academy at West Point, Air Force Academy, and various ROTC scholarship programs offered opportunities for outstanding students to receive world-class education while preparing for military service. Colonel Patterson assisted with the complex application processes required for military academies, helping Sarah understand admission requirements, prepare for entrance examinations, and develop application materials that would showcase her academic achievements, leadership experience, and commitment to military service. The preparation process was demanding, but provided focus and motivation that helped Sarah maintain academic excellence while managing ongoing family stress. Victoria's response to Sarah's military academy preparations was subtly discouraging, questioning whether military service was appropriate for young women and suggesting that Sarah should focus on more traditional college options that would keep her closer to home and family. These comments were framed as concern for Sarah's well-being, but reflected Victoria's desire to maintain control over family dynamics rather than genuine support for Sarah's goals and aspirations. David's reaction to Sarah's military interests was proud and supportive, reflecting his own positive experiences with military service and his belief that the values and opportunities provided by military careers could benefit Sarah's personal and professional development. However, his increasing reliance on Victoria for family management meant that his support was often filtered through Victoria's perspective rather than expressed directly through father-daughter conversations.
The tension between Sarah's growing independence and Victoria's desire for control became more apparent as Sarah's military applications progressed and her potential for leaving home became more realistic. Victoria began implementing additional restrictions on Sarah's activities and social relationships while expressing concerns about military service that seemed designed to undermine Sarah's confidence rather than provide genuine guidance. Sarah's academic performance remained exceptional throughout these challenges, with grade point averages and standardized test scores that placed her among the most competitive candidates for military academy admission. Her JROTC leadership responsibilities had expanded to include training younger students and representing the school at regional competitions, demonstrating her capabilities to broader military and academic communities. The nomination process for military academies required letters of recommendation from elected officials, community leaders, and educators who could attest to Sarah's character, academic abilities, and leadership potential. Colonel Patterson coordinated these requirements while providing detailed recommendations that emphasized Sarah's exceptional qualities and strong potential for success in military service. During the spring of her junior year, Sarah received notification that she had been selected as the primary nominee for the Naval Academy from her congressional district, virtually guaranteeing admission if she could meet the remaining academic and physical requirements. The achievement represented validation of years of academic excellence and leadership development while providing a clear pathway to independence and meaningful career opportunities. David's pride in Sarah's Naval Academy nomination was evident and deeply felt, connecting to his own military service while recognizing the exceptional achievement that the selection represented. However, Victoria's response was noticeably less enthusiastic, focusing on concerns about military service rather than celebrating Sarah's remarkable accomplishment. The final months of Sarah's junior year were spent completing Naval Academy admission requirements, including additional medical examinations, physical fitness assessments, and academic verification processes. Colonel Patterson continued providing guidance and support while helping Sarah understand what to expect during her first year at the academy and how to prepare mentally and physically for the challenges ahead. Sarah's social relationships during this period were influenced by her focus on military academy preparation and her growing awareness that she would be leaving Seaside after graduation. She maintained close friendships with JROTC peers while developing stronger relationships with mentors like Colonel Patterson, who could provide guidance for her future military career. The summer before her senior year included attendance at a Naval Academy preparatory program that provided introduction to Academy academic and military expectations while allowing prospective students to experience the institutional culture and demands they would encounter as midshipmen. Sarah excelled in all aspects of the program, confirming her readiness for Academy challenges while building confidence for the transition ahead.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Her senior year at Seaside High School was characterized by continued academic excellence, expanded JROTC leadership responsibilities, and preparation for the transition to Naval Academy life. Sarah maintained perspective on the temporary nature of her current family difficulties while focusing on the positive opportunities that lay ahead through military service and Naval Academy education. Victoria's behavior during this period became more openly controlling and critical as Sarah's departure for the Naval Academy became imminent. She seemed to recognize that her influence over family dynamics would be significantly reduced once Sarah left home, leading to increased attempts to create conflicts and undermine Sarah's relationship with David before her departure. However, Sarah's focus on her future goals and the support she received from Colonel Patterson and other mentors provided resilience against Victoria's emotional manipulation. The prospect of Naval Academy attendance offered both escape from current difficulties and positive validation that her character and capabilities were valued by institutions and individuals whose opinions carried more weight than Victoria's criticism. The final months before Sarah's departure for the Naval Academy were bittersweet, combining excitement about future opportunities with sadness about leaving David and the community where she had grown up. However, the challenges with Victoria made the transition easier emotionally while reinforcing Sarah's appreciation for the values and opportunities that military service could provide. Sarah's graduation from Seaside High School was attended by David, Victoria, Colonel Patterson, and various community members who had supported her development over the years. The ceremony represented the culmination of 12 years of academic excellence and personal growth, while marking the beginning of a new chapter that would test and develop her capabilities in ways that civilian college experiences could not provide. David's emotions during graduation were complex, combining pride in Sarah's achievements with sadness about her departure and concerns about maintaining their relationship while she was away at the Naval Academy. Victoria's presence at the ceremony was appropriate, but reflected her ongoing discomfort with Sarah's independence and success rather than genuine celebration of her accomplishments. The final weeks before Sarah's departure for the Naval Academy were spent completing administrative requirements, purchasing necessary equipment and supplies, and making arrangements for maintaining communication while she was away. David provided both practical and emotional support during this transition, while Victoria maintained distance that reflected her resentment about losing control over family dynamics. Colonel Patterson's final conversations with Sarah emphasized the importance of maintaining perspective during the challenging first year at the Naval Academy, while remembering that the difficulties were temporary steps toward achieving meaningful career goals and personal development. His mentorship had been instrumental in preparing Sarah for this opportunity while providing stability during difficult family circumstances. Sarah's departure for the Naval Academy in late June represented both an ending and a beginning. She was leaving behind a childhood community that had provided foundation for her character development while embarking on educational and military experiences that would shape her adult identity and career opportunities. The transition was emotionally challenging but positive, offering both escape from family difficulties and access to exceptional personal and professional development opportunities. The journey to Annapolis, Maryland, marked the beginning of Sarah's transformation from a small-town Oregon teenager into a future military officer whose character had been forged through both supportive family traditions and the resilience required to overcome challenging personal circumstances. The values that David had instilled during her childhood would be tested and strengthened through Naval Academy experiences, while the independence and determination she had developed in response to Victoria's behavior would prove essential for success in demanding military environments. Sarah's first year at the Naval Academy was both the most challenging and most rewarding experience of her young life, requiring adaptation to academic rigor, military discipline, and social environments that differed dramatically from anything she had previously encountered. The Academy's structured environment provided the kind of clear expectations and merit-based advancement that allowed Sarah to excel while building lasting relationships with peers who shared her commitment to military service and personal excellence. The plebe year at the Naval Academy was designed to break down civilian habits and assumptions while building the mental toughness, attention to detail, and leadership capabilities required for effective military service. Sarah's background with military family life and JROTC preparation provided advantages that helped her adapt more quickly than some classmates, while her academic preparation from Seaside High School proved more than adequate for academy coursework demands. Her company within the Brigade of Midshipmen included students from diverse geographic, social, and economic backgrounds who had been selected for exceptional academic achievement, leadership potential, and commitment to military values. Sarah's roommate was Maria Santos from El Paso, Texas, whose father was a career Army officer and whose family had provided similar preparation for military academy life. Maria's family background included Mexican-American cultural traditions that broadened Sarah's perspective, while her military family experience provided understanding of the sacrifices and rewards associated with military service. Academic coursework during the first year included engineering fundamentals, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and humanities requirements that provided broad educational foundation while introducing military-specific topics like naval history, leadership principles, and strategic studies. Sarah's analytical abilities and study habits allowed her to excel in technical subjects, while her liberal arts preparation provided advantages in writing and critical thinking requirements. The military training components of life included physical fitness requirements, military drill and ceremony,
weapons training, and leadership exercises that developed practical capabilities while reinforcing discipline and attention to detail. Sarah's physical preparation and competitive drive helped her exceed fitness standards, while her JROTC background provided familiarity with military procedures and expectations. Leadership opportunities began immediately at the academy, with first-year students receiving progressive responsibilities for training, academic support, and company management that provided practical experience in motivating and directing others toward common goals. Sarah's natural leadership abilities were recognized by upper-class midshipmen and military officers who provided mentorship while expanding her responsibilities.
Communication with David during her first year was maintained through weekly phone calls and occasional letters that allowed them to maintain their relationship despite geographic separation and demanding academy schedules. David's pride in Sarah's academy performance was evident in every conversation, providing emotional support that helped her maintain motivation during particularly challenging periods. Victoria's occasional participation in these communications was noticeably less supportive, often focusing on difficulties and sacrifices that military service would require rather than celebrating Sarah's achievements and positive experiences. The contrast between David's and Victoria's responses reinforced Sarah's appreciation for her father's values while confirming her concerns about Victoria's motivations and character. Summer training programs provided academy students with exposure to fleet operations, international experiences, and specialized military training that complemented classroom instruction while building practical capabilities. Sarah's first summer included training aboard naval vessels, introduction to aviation and submarine operations, and leadership development programs that expanded her understanding of Navy missions and career opportunities. The variety of military specializations available through academy graduation provided Sarah with options for career development that matched her interests and capabilities. Her strong performance in engineering and technical subjects suggested potential for specialization in systems analysis, weapons development, or cyber operations, while her leadership capabilities indicated potential for command responsibilities and strategic planning roles. Sarah's second year at the academy included expanded leadership responsibilities, advanced academic coursework, and increased interaction with fleet officers who provided mentorship and career guidance. Her performance continued to exceed expectations, while her commitment to military service deepened through exposure to Navy operations and values. The academic major selection process allowed Sarah to focus her studies on systems engineering, with concentration in cybersecurity and information warfare, subjects that combined her analytical strengths with rapidly growing military requirements for technological expertise. The coursework was demanding but aligned with her interests while providing preparation for career specialization that would be valuable throughout her military service. Third-class year leadership responsibilities included supervision of first-year students and participation in company management that provided practical experience in training, mentoring, and organizational leadership. Sarah's effectiveness in these roles was recognized through selection for additional responsibilities and recommendations for advanced leadership development programs. Communication with David remained consistent throughout her academy years, with their relationship deepening as Sarah matured and gained appreciation for the values and principles he had instilled during her childhood. Their conversations increasingly included discussions of military history, leadership challenges, and career planning that reflected their shared commitment to service and excellence. Victoria's interactions with Sarah during academy years became increasingly distant and occasionally hostile, particularly when Sarah's achievements received recognition or when David expressed pride in her accomplishments. The pattern suggested that Victoria resented Sarah's success and independence rather than celebrating her positive development and career prospects. During her second-class year, Sarah was selected for a summer internship with the Office of Naval Intelligence, providing exposure to national security analysis and strategic planning that influenced her career interests while demonstrating her potential for advanced responsibilities. The experience confirmed her interest in intelligence and cybersecurity specializations while building relationships with senior officers who would provide ongoing mentorship. Her first-class year included selection as company commander, one of the highest leadership positions available to academy students, and recognition of exceptional performance throughout her 4 years of development. The responsibilities required managing all aspects of company operations while serving as liaison between midshipmen and academy administration.
Academic performance throughout her academy years remained consistently outstanding, with grade point averages that placed Sarah among the top graduates in her class, while her leadership evaluations indicated exceptional potential for military command responsibilities. The combination of academic excellence and proven leadership effectiveness positioned her for selection of preferred duty assignments following graduation. Service selection during her final year allowed Sarah to choose her initial military specialization and duty assignment from options that reflected both her preferences and the Navy's assessment of her capabilities. Her selection of Surface Warfare Officer designation with specialization in information systems reflected her interest in technology applications while providing pathways to command responsibilities. Graduation from the Naval Academy represented the culmination of 4 years of intensive academic and military development that had transformed Sarah from a small-town teenager into a commissioned naval officer prepared for leadership responsibilities in complex military environments. David's pride in her achievement was overwhelming, validating years of sacrifice and commitment while representing fulfillment of family military traditions. Victoria's attendance at graduation was perfunctory rather than celebratory, reflecting her continued resentment of Sarah's independence and success. The contrast between her attitude and the genuine pride expressed by David and other family supporters reinforced Sarah's understanding of Victoria's character while confirming her decision to maintain distance from her stepmother. The commissioning ceremony marked Sarah's transition from midshipman to ensign in the United States Navy, representing both achievement of personal goals and acceptance of responsibilities for defending national security through professional military service. The oath of office connected her to centuries of military tradition while establishing commitment to values that transcended personal interests. Sarah's first duty assignment was aboard USS Portland, a San Antonio-class amphibious transport dock homeported in San Diego, California. The assignment provided comprehensive introduction to naval operations while allowing her to apply academy training in real-world military environments that demanded practical leadership and technical expertise. Sarah's deployment to the Persian Gulf began in March 2018, marking her third overseas assignment since receiving her commission from the Naval Academy.
The USS Portland had been tasked with supporting humanitarian operations in the region while maintaining strategic presence that demonstrated American commitment to regional stability and maritime security. The deployment was scheduled to last 8 months, representing the longest period Sarah would be away from home since beginning her military career. The weeks leading up to deployment had been filled with intensive preparation activities that included equipment inspections, personnel training, and operational briefings that ensured all crew members understood their responsibilities and the mission parameters they would be executing. Sarah's role as Information Systems Officer required coordinating communications capabilities, cybersecurity protocols, and data management systems that would be essential for effective operations in a complex international environment. Her relationship with David had grown stronger during her years of military service, with their shared understanding of military life creating deeper bonds than had existed during her teenage years when Victoria's presence had created tension and distance. David had retired from active duty 2 years earlier, but remained involved with veteran organizations and maintained connections within the military community that kept him informed about naval operations and deployment requirements. The final dinner before Sarah's deployment took place at their traditional restaurant in Seaside, where David had taken her for special occasions throughout her childhood and teenage years. The conversation focused on operational security requirements that limited what Sarah could share about specific mission details, but David's experience allowed him to understand the general nature of her responsibilities and the professional development opportunities that the deployment would provide. Victoria's behavior during this farewell period was notably distant and disengaged, showing little interest in Sarah's deployment preparations or the significance of her expanded responsibilities aboard the Portland. Her responses to deployment discussions were perfunctory and sometimes dismissive, suggesting that she viewed Sarah's military career as an inconvenience rather than a source of pride or family honor. David presented Sarah with a small leather portfolio that had belonged to his father during World War II, explaining that the item had been carried by 3 generations of military family members during overseas deployments. The portfolio contained photographs, letters, and personal items that represented family connections and provided emotional anchors during extended periods away from home.
The gift was deeply meaningful to Sarah, representing continuity with family military traditions, while acknowledging her place within a legacy of service that transcended individual achievements or personal ambitions. David's gesture demonstrated his recognition of her commitment to military excellence, while providing tangible connection to family history during the challenging months ahead. Sarah's departure from San Diego was witnessed by David, who had traveled from Oregon to attend the ship's departure ceremony and share final moments before the extended separation began. Victoria had declined to make the trip, citing work obligations that seemed more like convenient excuses than genuine scheduling conflicts. The deployment began with transit operations that took the Portland through the Panama Canal and across the Atlantic Ocean toward the Mediterranean Sea, providing crew members with time to adjust to shipboard routines while conducting training exercises that prepared them for operational requirements in the Persian Gulf region. Sarah's responsibilities during transit included coordinating communication systems that maintained contact with fleet headquarters while ensuring that information security protocols protected sensitive operational data from potential compromise. The work was technically demanding but professionally rewarding, requiring expertise that had been developed through academy training and previous deployment experiences. Life aboard the Portland during extended deployment created close relationships among crew members who shared the challenges and isolation of military service far from family and familiar environments. Sarah's leadership style and technical competence earned respect from both junior personnel under her supervision and senior officers who relied on her expertise for critical mission support. The ship's communications capabilities allowed limited personal contact with family members through email systems and occasional phone calls when operational security and schedule permitted. Sarah maintained regular correspondence with David, sharing experiences that operational security allowed while receiving news about his activities and community developments in Seaside. David's letters provided emotional support and practical updates about family matters, veteran organization activities, and local events that maintained Sarah's connection to home during the extended separation. His writing reflected pride in her service while offering encouragement during particularly challenging periods of deployment operations. Victoria's participation in family communications was minimal and often negative, focusing on difficulties and inconveniences created by Sarah's absence rather than expressing support or interest in her professional experiences. The contrast between David's encouraging messages and Victoria's complaints reinforced Sarah's understanding of their different attitudes toward military service and family relationships. The Portland's operational area included waters near several nations where political instability and military tensions required constant vigilance and readiness for rapid response to developing situations. Sarah's role in maintaining communication capabilities and information security was critical for situational awareness and coordination with other naval units operating in the region. The humanitarian mission components included providing medical assistance to refugee populations, supporting disaster relief operations, and coordinating with international organizations that were addressing ongoing humanitarian crises throughout the region. These activities provided meaningful purpose for the deployment while demonstrating positive applications of military capabilities for addressing human suffering. Sarah's technical expertise was expanded through advanced training opportunities that were available during deployment, including cybersecurity certification programs and information warfare courses that enhanced her qualifications while preparing her for increased responsibilities in future assignments. The professional development opportunities represented substantial advancement in her military career. The crew's morale was maintained through organized recreational activities, educational programs, and communication opportunities that helped personnel manage the stress and isolation associated with extended overseas deployment. Sarah participated in leadership development programs while contributing to crew welfare activities that strengthened unit cohesion and operational effectiveness.
Midway through the deployment, the Portland was tasked with supporting evacuation operations for American citizens from a country experiencing civil unrest and breakdown of governmental authority. The mission required complex coordination between military units, diplomatic personnel, and civilian agencies while operating in potentially dangerous environments. Sarah's role in evacuation operations included establishing secure communication links with embassy personnel, coordinating with other ships and aircraft involved in the operation, and maintaining situational awareness that enabled command personnel to make informed decisions about operational risks and resource allocation. The evacuation mission was successfully completed without casualties or significant incidents, providing professional satisfaction while demonstrating the positive impact that military service could have in protecting American citizens and supporting national interests abroad. The experience reinforced Sarah's commitment to military excellence while building confidence in her capabilities for handling complex operational challenges. During the final months of deployment, Sarah received notification that she had been selected for promotion to lieutenant commander, recognizing exceptional performance throughout her naval career while providing opportunities for increased responsibilities and leadership roles in future assignments. The promotion represented significant professional advancement while validating her decision to pursue military service as a career. David's reaction to news of Sarah's promotion was enthusiastic and deeply proud, reflecting his understanding of the achievement that the advancement represented, while acknowledging the professional competence and leadership abilities that had earned recognition from senior naval officers. His response provided emotional validation that strengthened Sarah's satisfaction with her career choices. Victoria's response to the promotion news was notably lukewarm, offering congratulations that seemed obligatory rather than genuine, while questioning whether increased military responsibilities would require additional time away from family relationships. Her reaction suggested resentment of Sarah's success rather than pride in her achievements. The Portland's return journey began in late October, with transit operations that provided time for crew members to readjust to prospects of returning home while completing mission debriefings and equipment maintenance that prepared the ship for home port arrival and subsequent operational cycles. Sarah used the return transit period to complete professional development courses and prepare for the increased responsibilities that would accompany her promotion to lieutenant commander. She also began planning for leave time that would allow extended visits with David and opportunities to reconnect with family relationships that had been maintained through correspondence during deployment. The ship's arrival in San Diego was marked by reunion ceremonies that brought together crew members with family members who had maintained support networks during the extended separation. David had traveled from Oregon to attend the homecoming ceremony, providing emotional reunion while demonstrating his continued pride in Sarah's military service and professional achievements. Victoria's absence from the homecoming ceremony was explained through scheduling conflicts that seemed unconvincing given the significance of Sarah's return after 8 months of deployment. The pattern of minimal support and engagement suggested ongoing resentment rather than genuine care for family relationships. Sarah's post-deployment leave provided opportunities for extended visits with David in Seaside, where they could reconnect through shared activities and conversations that had been impossible during deployment communications. The time together allowed Sarah to appreciate the stability and emotional support that David provided, while recognizing how much their relationship meant to her personal well-being. During leave visits, Sarah noticed changes in David's health and energy levels that suggested aging effects and possible medical concerns that he had not mentioned during deployment correspondence. His movements were less energetic than she remembered, and he experienced occasional fatigue during activities that had not previously caused difficulty. Medical appointments revealed that David had been managing early-stage heart disease that required medication and lifestyle modifications to prevent progression of cardiovascular problems. The diagnosis was serious but manageable with proper treatment, though it represented the beginning of health challenges that would require ongoing attention and medical care. David's approach to his health concerns reflected the same steady determination that had characterized his military service and parenting responsibilities. He followed medical recommendations carefully while maintaining active involvement in veteran organizations and community activities that provided purpose and social connections. Sarah's concern for David's health created additional motivation for maintaining close family relationships while balancing military career responsibilities that required extended absences from home. She began considering future assignment preferences that might allow more frequent contact with David while continuing her professional development within the naval service. Victoria's response to David's health concerns was apparently supportive, but seemed to focus more on inconveniences and lifestyle changes required for his care rather than genuine worry about
his well-being. Her reaction suggested that she viewed David's health problems as burdens rather than shared challenges that required family cooperation and mutual support. Sarah's new assignment following her promotion was to Naval Information Operations Command in Norfolk, Virginia, where she would be responsible for cybersecurity programs and information warfare capabilities that supported fleet operations worldwide. The position represented significant professional advancement while providing opportunities to influence naval operations at strategic levels. The assignment required relocation from California to Virginia, creating additional geographic distance from David, but positioning Sarah for career advancement that could lead to command responsibilities and senior leadership roles within the naval service. The professional opportunities justified the personal sacrifices while demonstrating progress toward long-term career objectives. Training for her new responsibilities included advanced cybersecurity courses, strategic planning seminars, and leadership development programs that prepared Sarah for the complex challenges of information warfare and network defense operations.
The technical and strategic components of the work aligned with her interests while building expertise that was increasingly valuable for national security. Communication with David continued through regular phone calls and email correspondence that maintained their close relationship despite geographic separation. David's health remained stable with proper medical care, though Sarah remained concerned about potential complications and the limitations that age and medical conditions might create for his activities and independence. Victoria's interactions with Sarah during this period became increasingly strained, with conversations that often focused on complaints about David's health requirements, household responsibilities, and social obligations that she found burdensome. Her attitude suggested growing resentment about caregiving responsibilities rather than commitment to supporting David during challenging health circumstances. Sarah's work at Naval Information Operations Command involved classified projects and sensitive responsibilities that limited what she could share about specific activities, but the professional challenges were stimulating while contributing to important national security objectives. Her performance evaluations reflected exceptional competence while positioning her for continued advancement within specialized information warfare career tracks. During her second year in Norfolk, Sarah received notification that David had suffered a heart attack while working in his garden, requiring emergency medical treatment and hospitalization for cardiac procedures that would address blocked arteries and restore proper heart function. The medical emergency created immediate concerns about David's survival and long-term health prospects. Sarah was granted emergency leave to travel to Oregon for David's surgery and recovery period, providing family support during the critical medical crisis while addressing her own emotional needs for being present during uncertain circumstances. The experience reinforced the importance of family relationships while highlighting the challenges of maintaining close connections during military career demands. David's surgery was successful, though recovery would require extended rehabilitation and lifestyle modifications that would affect his independence and activity levels. The medical team emphasized that proper care and family support would be essential for preventing future cardiac events while maintaining quality of life during his recovery period. Victoria's behavior during David's medical crisis revealed concerning patterns of resentment and emotional distance that suggested she viewed his health problems as inconveniences rather than shared challenges requiring mutual support and commitment. Her responses to medical decisions and care requirements seemed focused on personal impact rather than David's well-being. Sarah spent 3 weeks in Seaside during David's initial recovery, providing practical assistance with medical appointments, household tasks, and rehabilitation activities while monitoring his progress and coordinating with healthcare providers. The experience allowed intensive time together while reinforcing the strength of their relationship despite years of geographic separation. During recovery conversations, David expressed appreciation for Sarah's military career and personal achievements while sharing concerns about his own health limitations and the impact they might have on his independence and quality of life. His approach to medical challenges reflected the same courage and determination that had characterized his military service. Sarah's return to Norfolk after David's recovery was emotionally difficult but professionally necessary, as her responsibilities required presence for classified projects and time-sensitive operations that could not be postponed or delegated to other personnel. She maintained daily communication with David while coordinating with healthcare providers.
The months following David's heart attack were marked by gradual improvement in his physical condition and adjustment to lifestyle modifications that would reduce cardiovascular risks while maintaining active engagement in activities he found meaningful and satisfying. Medical follow-up appointments showed positive progress while confirming the importance of continued vigilance regarding his heart health. Victoria's caregiving responsibilities appeared adequate from external perspectives, but Sarah began noticing subtle indicators during phone conversations that suggested David was not receiving the emotional support and encouragement that would be optimal for his recovery and ongoing well-being. Her observations created concerns about the quality of care and family relationships during her absence. Sarah's professional responsibilities at Naval Information Operations Command continued expanding, with selection for classified projects and leadership roles that demonstrated exceptional competence while building expertise that would be valuable throughout her military career. The work was demanding but professionally rewarding, contributing to important national security objectives. During her third year in Norfolk, Sarah received orders for deployment to Joint Task Force operations in the Pacific Theater, where her information warfare expertise would support complex military operations involving multiple service branches and international coalition partners. The deployment represented significant professional opportunity while requiring extended absence from family relationships. The deployment preparations included security clearance updates, specialized training programs, and coordination with international partners that would be involved in the joint operations. Sarah's responsibilities would include establishing secure communication networks and coordinating cybersecurity protocols that protected sensitive information while enabling effective operational coordination. David's health remained stable during deployment preparations, though Sarah remained concerned about leaving him for extended periods while he continued managing cardiac recovery and ongoing medical requirements. Their conversations emphasized the importance of maintaining regular communication while ensuring that Victoria provided appropriate support and care during her absence. Victoria's attitude towards Sarah's upcoming deployment was notably negative, focusing on additional responsibilities and inconveniences that David's care would create during Sarah's absence, rather than expressing pride in her professional advancement or understanding of military service obligations. The Pacific deployment began in September 2021, taking Sarah to operations bases in Japan, South Korea, and Guam, where Joint Task Force coordination required establishing secure communication capabilities and information sharing protocols that supported complex multinational military operations.
Her responsibilities included working with cyber warfare specialists from allied nations while coordinating defensive measures against sophisticated threats that targeted military communication networks and operational security systems. The work was technically challenging while contributing to important strategic objectives in the Pacific region. Communication with David during Pacific deployment was maintained through encrypted email systems and scheduled phone calls that provided emotional connection while respecting operational security requirements that limited personal communication capabilities. David's messages during this deployment reflected continued recovery from his heart attack while expressing pride in Sarah's professional achievements and military service. His support provided emotional strength during challenging operational periods while reinforcing their close relationship despite geographic separation and communication limitations. Victoria's limited participation in family communications continued the pattern of minimal support while occasionally expressing complaints about caregiving responsibilities and household management requirements that suggested growing resentment about David's health needs and the impact they had on her lifestyle and social activities. The Pacific deployment was extended twice due to evolving operational requirements and international developments that necessitated continued American military presence in the region. The extensions created additional stress for family relationships while providing expanded professional opportunities for Sarah's career development. During the extended deployment, Sarah received notification through Red Cross Communications that David had suffered a second heart attack, this one more severe than the previous cardiac event, requiring intensive medical treatment and creating immediate concerns about his survival and recovery prospects. Emergency leave was approved for Sarah to return to Oregon for David's medical crisis, though transportation from the Pacific operational area required complex logistics and significant travel time that created anxiety about arriving in time to see David before potential complications or deterioration of his condition.
The 36-hour journey from Guam to Oregon included military transport flights, commercial connections, and ground transportation that tested Sarah's emotional resilience while providing time to prepare for uncertain circumstances and potential outcomes that might range from David's recovery to more serious possibilities that she was reluctant to consider. Sarah's arrival at Seaside Community Hospital revealed that David was in intensive care following cardiac surgery that had addressed multiple blocked arteries while attempting to restore heart function that had been severely compromised by the second heart attack. Medical staff explained that his condition was critical but stable, with recovery prospects that remained uncertain. Victoria's behavior during the medical crisis was notably different from her response to David's previous heart attack, showing less engagement with medical decisions and seemingly more concerned with managing disruptions to her routine than with David's recovery and care requirements. The intensive care period lasted 5 days, during which Sarah maintained constant presence at the hospital while coordinating with medical staff and monitoring David's progress through critical recovery phases that would determine his long-term survival and quality of life prospects. David regained consciousness gradually, with cognitive function that appeared normal despite the physical trauma his cardiovascular system had experienced. His first conversations with Sarah reflected awareness of the severity of his condition while expressing gratitude for her presence and continued pride in her military achievements. Medical discussions with cardiac specialists revealed that David's heart damage was extensive, requiring lifestyle modifications that would significantly limit his physical activities while necessitating ongoing medical monitoring and potential future interventions to maintain heart function and prevent additional cardiac events. Sarah's emergency leave was extended to accommodate David's recovery period and the need to establish care arrangements that would provide appropriate support for his ongoing medical requirements. The process required coordination with military personnel offices while ensuring that family responsibilities were properly addressed. Victoria's attitude during David's extended recovery became increasingly problematic, with behaviors that suggested resentment about caregiving responsibilities and lifestyle restrictions that David's condition required. Her responses to medical recommendations and care requirements seemed focused on personal inconvenience rather than David's well-being and care. During private conversations with Sarah, David expressed concerns about Victoria's attitude and behavior, suggesting that he had noticed changes in her support and engagement that created additional stress during his recovery period. His observations aligned with Sarah's growing concerns about the quality of care and emotional support that Victoria was providing. David's discharge from the hospital required extensive planning for home care arrangements that would provide appropriate medical monitoring while accommodating his reduced physical capabilities and ongoing cardiac rehabilitation requirements. Sarah coordinated with healthcare providers while ensuring that necessary equipment and support services were properly arranged. The transition to home care revealed the extent of David's physical limitations and the comprehensive support requirements that his condition would necessitate for the foreseeable future. Simple activities that had previously been routine now required careful planning and assistance that would test family resources and commitment to his care. Sarah spent 2 additional weeks in Seaside establishing care routines and ensuring that David's medical requirements were properly managed before returning to her military assignment. The experience reinforced her appreciation for their relationship while creating concerns about leaving him in Victoria's care during his vulnerable recovery period. David's emotional response to Sarah's departure was more difficult than previous separations, reflecting his awareness of increased dependency and medical fragility, while acknowledging the importance of her continued military service and professional development. Victoria's behavior during Sarah's final days in Seaside was notably distant and sometimes irritable, suggesting that she viewed David's care requirements as burdens rather than family responsibilities that required patience, commitment, and genuine concern for his well-being. Sarah's return to Pacific deployment operations was emotionally challenging due to concerns about David's health and recovery, while recognizing that her military responsibilities required focus and professional competence despite personal worries and family obligations. Communication with David following her return to deployment was maintained through daily phone calls that monitored his recovery progress while providing emotional support and connection during his continued rehabilitation. His report suggested gradual improvement in physical condition while indicating ongoing challenges with fatigue and activity limitations.
Victoria's participation in these communications remained minimal and often negative, focusing on difficulties and inconveniences associated with David's care rather than expressing optimism about his recovery or commitment to supporting his continued improvement. The final months of Sarah's Pacific deployment were marked by professional success in completing complex information warfare operations while maintaining constant concern about David's health and the quality of care he was receiving during her absence. Her return to Norfolk in March 2022 was followed immediately by leave that allowed extended visits with David to assess his condition and recovery progress while spending quality time together that had been impossible during deployment communications. David's physical condition had improved somewhat during Sarah's deployment absence, though his energy levels and activity capabilities remained significantly reduced compared to his pre-illness condition. His emotional state reflected acceptance of physical limitations while maintaining positive outlook about continued recovery prospects. Victoria's behavior during Sarah's post-deployment visit revealed increased resentment and emotional distance that created tension in family relationships while suggesting that her commitment to David's care was based more on obligation than genuine affection or concern for his well-being. During extended conversations with David, he shared observations about Victoria's attitude and behavior that confirmed Sarah's concerns about the quality of emotional support and care he was receiving. His comments suggested that Victoria had become increasingly focused on personal inconveniences rather than his medical needs and recovery requirements. Sarah's assessment of family dynamics during this visit created serious concerns about David's long-term care and emotional well-being, particularly regarding potential future medical emergencies or deterioration that might require intensive support and advocacy that Victoria seemed unwilling or unable to provide effectively. The visit concluded with Sarah's return to Norfolk and resumed military responsibilities, though her concerns about David's situation continued to influence her thinking about future assignment preferences and the possibility of requesting duty locations that would allow more frequent contact and oversight of his care and living situation. David's health remained relatively stable during the spring and summer of 2022, though his physical limitations required ongoing adaptation to lifestyle restrictions while maintaining engagement in activities that provided purpose and satisfaction within his reduced capabilities. Sarah's work at Naval Information Operations Command continued expanding, with additional responsibilities and classified projects that demonstrated exceptional competence while building expertise that positioned her for continued advancement within information warfare specializations. Communication between Sarah and David maintained their close relationship despite geographic separation, with conversations that reflected his continued pride in her achievements while providing updates about his health status and daily activities within the limitations that his cardiac condition imposed. Victoria's interactions with Sarah during this period became increasingly strained, with conversations that often included complaints about David's care requirements and lifestyle limitations, while suggesting that she found caregiving responsibilities burdensome rather than opportunities to demonstrate family commitment and love. During late summer 2022, Sarah received notification of selection for attendance at the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, where she would complete advanced education in strategic studies and military leadership that would prepare her for senior officer responsibilities and potential command assignments. The War College assignment represented significant professional advancement while providing opportunities for graduate-level education that would enhance her qualifications for strategic planning roles and senior leadership positions within the Naval Service. The academic program would begin in January 2023 and continue for 1 year. David's reaction to news of Sarah's War College selection was enthusiastic and proud, reflecting his understanding of the professional achievement that the opportunity represented, while acknowledging the advanced responsibilities and leadership roles that the education would prepare her to assume. Victoria's response to the War College news was notably less positive, questioning whether additional education was necessary and expressing concerns about family obligations and David's care requirements during Sarah's academic program attendance.
The months preceding Sarah's War College attendance were spent completing current responsibilities at Naval Information Operations Command while preparing for the academic challenges and professional development opportunities that the advanced education would provide. David's health remained stable during this preparation period, though Sarah maintained concerns about his long-term care and the quality of support that Victoria would provide during her absence for War College attendance. Their final conversations before Sarah's departure for Newport included discussions of family history, military traditions, and David's pride in her achievements, while expressing hopes for her continued success and professional advancement within naval service. Victoria's behavior during Sarah's departure preparations was distant and seemingly resentful, suggesting that she viewed educational and professional advancement as additional inconveniences rather than sources of family pride and achievement. Sarah's arrival at the Naval War College in January 2023 marked the beginning of intensive academic study and professional development that would prepare her for senior officer responsibilities while providing comprehensive education in strategic planning, national security policy, and military leadership principles. The academic environment included students from all military services and international partners, creating diverse perspectives and collaborative learning opportunities that enhanced understanding of global security challenges and strategic decision-making processes. Communication with David during War College attendance was maintained through regular phone calls and email correspondence that provided emotional connection while allowing Sarah to monitor his health status and overall well-being despite geographic separation and academic demands. David's messages during this period reflected continued pride in Sarah's academic achievements, while sharing updates about his daily activities and health status that suggested stable condition within the limitations that his cardiac issues imposed on physical activities and energy levels. Victoria's limited participation in family communications continued previous patterns of minimal engagement, while occasionally expressing complaints about household responsibilities and caregiving requirements that suggested ongoing resentment about David's care needs and lifestyle restrictions. The War College curriculum included strategic studies, leadership development, and research projects that challenged Sarah's analytical capabilities while building expertise in areas that would be essential for senior officer responsibilities and strategic planning roles within the naval service. Her academic performance at the War College exceeded expectations, with recognition for exceptional analytical work and leadership potential that positioned her favorably for selection to senior positions and command responsibilities following graduation from the advanced education program. Communication with David during the spring semester remained consistent, though Sarah began noticing subtle changes in his energy levels and enthusiasm that suggested possible health deterioration or emotional challenges that he was reluctant to discuss during their conversations. Medical follow-up reports that David shared indicated stable cardiac condition within expected parameters, though his activity tolerance remained limited and fatigue continued affecting his daily routine and social engagement with friends and community activities. Victoria's attitude during this period seemed increasingly focused on personal inconveniences and lifestyle restrictions rather than David's well-being, with responses to his health needs that suggested diminishing patience and commitment to providing appropriate care and emotional support. During spring break from War College, Sarah visited Seaside for extended time with David, observing his condition and family dynamics while assessing the quality of care and support that Victoria was providing during his ongoing recovery and health management. The visit revealed concerning changes in David's overall well-being, including reduced social engagement, decreased appetite, and emotional state that suggested depression or discouragement beyond what would be expected from his physical limitations alone.
Victoria's behavior during Sarah's visit was notably defensive when questioned about David's care and daily routine, suggesting sensitivity about her caregiving approach while maintaining that she was meeting all necessary requirements for his medical and personal needs. Private conversations with David revealed his growing concerns about Victoria's attitude and behavior, including observations that she seemed increasingly resentful about caregiving responsibilities while showing less patience and emotional support than his condition and recovery required. David's insights about family dynamics confirmed Sarah's observations about deteriorating relationships and care quality, though he remained reluctant to create additional family conflict by directly confronting Victoria about her attitude and behavior toward his health needs and recovery requirements.
Sarah's return to War College following spring break was emotionally difficult due to increased concerns about David's well-being and the family dynamics that seemed to be affecting his recovery and quality of life despite apparent medical stability within expected parameters. The final months of War College included intensive research projects and preparation for graduation, while Sarah maintained heightened concern about David's situation and began considering future assignment options that might allow closer geographic proximity for family oversight and support. Her graduation from Naval War College in December 2023 was attended by David, who made the journey to Newport despite travel difficulties and fatigue that reflected his ongoing health limitations, but demonstrated his commitment to supporting Sarah's achievements and celebrating her professional advancement. Victoria's absence from graduation was explained through scheduling conflicts that seemed unconvincing given the significance of Sarah's academic achievement and the importance that David placed on attending the ceremony despite his health challenges and travel difficulties. The graduation ceremony marked completion of advanced military education that positioned Sarah for senior leadership roles while providing comprehensive preparation for strategic responsibilities and command assignments that would define the next phase of her naval career. David's pride in Sarah's War College graduation was evident despite the physical challenges that travel and ceremony attendance created for his limited energy and cardiac condition. His presence at the graduation provided meaningful emotional support while demonstrating continued commitment to their relationship. Following graduation, Sarah received orders for assignment as executive officer aboard USS Freedom, a littoral combat ship homeported in San Diego, California. The assignment represented significant career advancement, with direct preparation for future command responsibilities while providing complex operational challenges in Pacific theater operations. The executive officer position would require comprehensive ship management responsibilities while serving as second-in-command for complex naval operations that demanded exceptional leadership, technical competence, and decision-making capabilities under challenging circumstances. David's reaction to news of Sarah's executive officer assignment was enthusiastic pride combined with understanding of the professional significance that the position represented for her career development and preparation for eventual command responsibilities within the Naval Service. Victoria's response to the assignment news was characteristically negative, focusing on geographic distance and time demands rather than recognizing the professional achievement that selection for executive officer responsibilities represented for Sarah's military career. The transition from War College to operational assignment required relocation from Rhode Island to California while coordinating with military personnel systems and preparing for the complex responsibilities that executive officer duties would require aboard a technologically advanced naval vessel. Sarah's final visit with David before reporting to her new assignment provided opportunities for extended conversation and connection while addressing her ongoing concerns about his health status and the quality of care and support that Victoria was providing during his continued recovery and medical management. David's condition appeared stable during this visit, though his physical limitations remained significant, while emotional well-being seemed affected by family dynamics and care quality that created additional stress beyond his medical challenges alone. Private conversations during this visit included David's continued observations about Victoria's attitude and behavior, with increased concerns about her commitment to providing appropriate care and emotional support that his condition and ongoing recovery required for optimal health outcomes. Sarah's departure for San Diego was emotionally difficult for both David and herself, representing another extended separation during a period when his health vulnerabilities and care needs created heightened concerns about family support and emergency response capabilities. The executive officer assignment aboard USS Freedom began with intensive orientation and training that prepared Sarah for comprehensive ship management responsibilities while introducing her to crew members and operational requirements that would define her leadership challenges and professional development opportunities. Her responsibilities included supervising all ship departments, coordinating training programs, managing personnel issues, and serving as primary advisor to the commanding officer for operational decisions and crew management that ensured mission readiness and effective performance during complex naval operations. Communication with David was maintained through regular phone calls and email correspondence that provided emotional connection while allowing Sarah to monitor his health status and assess family dynamics despite geographic separation and demanding operational schedules.
David's messages during her initial months of war freedom reflected continued pride in her achievements while sharing updates about his daily routine and health management that suggested stable condition within the parameters that his cardiac limitations imposed on activity levels and energy reserves. Victoria's participation in family communications remained minimal and often negative, with responses that focused on personal inconveniences and caregiving burdens rather than expressing interest in Sarah's professional responsibilities or demonstrating genuine concern for David's continued well-being and recovery progress. The operational demands of executive officer responsibilities required intensive focus and professional competence, while Sarah maintained constant underlying concern about David's situation and the quality of care and support that Victoria was providing during his ongoing health management and daily living requirements. During her 6th month aboard Freedom, Sarah received emergency notification through Red Cross Communications that David had been hospitalized following a fall at home that had resulted in serious injuries requiring immediate medical attention and extended treatment for complications that threatened his already compromised health status. The emergency leave approval process was expedited due to the severity of David's condition, though transportation from San Diego to Oregon required several hours that created anxiety about his medical status and the possibility that complications might worsen before Sarah could reach the hospital and assess his condition personally. David's fall had occurred while Victoria was away from home for personal activities, leaving him alone for several hours before neighbors discovered his situation and contacted emergency medical services for transportation to Seaside Community Hospital, where he was being treated for multiple injuries. The medical evaluation revealed that David had suffered hip fractures, head trauma, and complications related to his cardiac condition that created serious concerns about his survival prospects and recovery potential given his age and pre-existing health vulnerabilities. Sarah's arrival at the hospital provided opportunity to coordinate with medical staff while assessing David's condition and understanding the treatment requirements and recovery prospects that his multiple injuries and complications would necessitate for optimal healing and restoration of function. David's consciousness was intermittent during the initial hospitalization period, though his recognition of Sarah's presence and attempts at communication suggested that cognitive function remained largely intact despite the physical trauma and medical complications he had sustained. Victoria's behavior during this medical emergency was notably different from her responses to David's previous health crises, showing less engagement with medical decisions and treatment planning while focusing more on personal inconveniences and disruptions to her routine than on David's recovery needs. Medical discussions with healthcare providers revealed the complexity of David's injuries and the extended recovery period that would be required for healing, while acknowledging that his age and cardiac condition created significant challenges for rehabilitation and restoration of previous functional capabilities. Sarah's presence during David's hospitalization allowed intensive time together while coordinating with medical staff and ensuring that treatment decisions reflected his preferences and best interests for recovery and long-term care management.
The hospital stay extended for 3 weeks while David's condition stabilized and initial healing progressed sufficiently to allow transition to rehabilitation facilities that could provide specialized therapy and support for his complex recovery requirements. Victoria's attitude during David's extended hospitalization became increasingly problematic, with behaviors that suggested resentment about the time demands and lifestyle disruptions that his care was creating, rather than demonstrating genuine concern for his recovery and long-term well-being. David's transfer to rehabilitation facilities required complex coordination between medical providers while ensuring that therapy programs and support services addressed his specific needs for physical recovery and restoration of functional capabilities within the limitations that his injuries and cardiac condition imposed. Sarah's emergency leave was extended multiple times to accommodate David's rehabilitation period and the need to establish long-term care arrangements that would provide appropriate support for his ongoing medical requirements and daily living assistance. The rehabilitation process revealed the extent of David's functional limitations and the comprehensive support that would be required for safe living arrangements following discharge from medical facilities. During private conversations at the rehabilitation facility, David expressed growing concerns about Victoria's attitude and commitment to providing the level of care and support that his condition would require for safe and comfortable living arrangements following medical discharge. His observations about Victoria's behavior and responses to his care needs confirmed Sarah's concerns about the quality of support and emotional care that he was receiving, while highlighting potential problems for future care arrangements and family relationships.
Victoria's interactions with rehabilitation staff and care planning meetings reflected minimal engagement with David's recovery goals, while focusing on limitations and inconveniences rather than opportunities for continued improvement and adaptation to his changed capabilities. Sarah's assessment of David's care needs and Victoria's willingness and ability to provide appropriate support created serious concerns about his safety and well-being if he returned to living arrangements that depended primarily on Victoria's caregiving and emotional support. The discharge planning process required extensive coordination between medical providers, social services, and family members to ensure that David's care needs would be met safely and effectively in home environments that could accommodate his physical limitations and medical requirements. Victoria's participation in discharge planning was characterized by resistance to recommended care modifications and support services while minimizing the extent of David's needs and the level of assistance that his condition would require for safe and comfortable daily living. Sarah's advocacy for comprehensive care arrangements and support services created tension with Victoria, who seemed to view recommendations as unnecessary inconveniences rather than essential elements for David's continued recovery and quality of life. The final discharge arrangements represented compromises between medical recommendations and Victoria's willingness to accept support services and care modifications that David's condition required for safe transition to home environments. David's return home was accompanied by extensive medical equipment, support services, and care protocols that were designed to ensure his safety while promoting continued recovery within the limitations that his injuries and cardiac condition imposed on physical activities and independence. Sarah remained in Seaside for 2 additional weeks following David's discharge to ensure that care arrangements were functioning effectively while monitoring his adjustment to home care and the support that Victoria was providing for his daily needs and medical management. The observation period revealed ongoing concerns about Victoria's attitude and approach to David's care, with behaviors that suggested minimal patience and commitment to providing the level of support and encouragement that his recovery and quality of life required. David's private communications with Sarah during this period included increased expressions of concern about his living situation and Victoria's attitude toward his care needs, while acknowledging his dependency and limited options for alternative arrangements. Sarah's return to her executive officer responsibilities aboard USS Freedom was emotionally devastating due to concerns about David's safety and care quality, while recognizing that her military obligations required resuming professional duties despite family worries and ongoing uncertainty about his situation. The resumption of shipboard responsibilities required intensive focus on crew management and operational preparation, while Sarah maintained constant underlying anxiety about David's well-being. Sarah's 4th month back aboard USS Freedom was interrupted by a phone call that would shatter every assumption she had made about family loyalty and human decency. The call came through the ship's emergency communication system at 300 hours while the vessel was conducting night operations off the coast of Guam. Chief Petty Officer Martinez knocked on her stateroom door with the urgent expression that indicated family emergency communications. The voice on the other end belonged to Mrs. Eleanor Patterson, David's neighbor for the past 15 years, whose trembling words delivered news that Sarah's mind initially refused to process. David had passed away 3 days earlier from complications following another cardiac episode, but Victoria had made no attempt to contact Sarah or arrange for military notification of his death. Mrs. Patterson had discovered David's death only when she noticed that his daily routine of checking mail and tending to his small garden had ceased entirely. After receiving no response to her concerned inquiries at the front door, she had used her spare key to enter the house, finding David in his bedroom where he had apparently died peacefully during sleep. The devastating revelation that followed was even more incomprehensible than the news of David's death itself. Victoria had immediately contacted a local estate sale company and begun the process of liquidating every item that David had owned, including his military decorations, personal photographs, furniture, and sentimental possessions that represented decades of military service and family memories. Mrs. Patterson explained that Victoria had claimed David's death was expected due to his declining health, and that she had proper legal authority to dispose of his possessions as she deemed appropriately. The estate sale had been scheduled for the following weekend, with advertisements already placed in local newspapers and online platforms. Most shocking of all was Victoria's explanation to neighbors and estate sale personnel that David had no surviving family members and that she was his sole heir with complete discretionary authority over all property and possessions. She had apparently told multiple people that David's military records contained no emergency contact information and that his previous family relationships had been severed years earlier. Sarah's initial response to this information was complete disbelief, followed by overwhelming grief that combined mourning for David's death with fury about Victoria's betrayal and deception. David had passed away 3 days earlier from complications following another cardiac episode, but Victoria had made no attempt to contact Sarah or arrange for military notification of his death. Mrs. Patterson had discovered David's death only when she noticed that his daily routine of checking mail and tending to his small garden had ceased entirely. After receiving no response to her concerned inquiries at the front door, she had used her spare key to enter the house, finding David in his bedroom where he had apparently died peacefully during sleep. The devastating revelation that followed was even more incomprehensible than the news of David's death itself. Victoria had immediately contacted a local estate sale company and begun the process of liquidating every item that David had owned, including his military decorations, personal photographs, furniture, and sentimental possessions that represented decades of military service and family memories. Mrs. Patterson explained that Victoria had claimed David's death was expected due to his declining health, and that she had proper legal authority to dispose of his possessions as she deemed appropriately. The estate sale had been scheduled for the following weekend, with advertisements already placed in local newspapers and online platforms. Most shocking of all was Victoria's explanation to neighbors and estate sale personnel that David had no surviving family members and that she was his sole heir, with complete discretionary authority over all property and possessions. She had apparently told multiple people that David's military records contained no emergency contact information and that his previous family relationships had been severed years earlier. Sarah's initial response to this information was complete disbelief, followed by overwhelming grief that combined mourning for David's death with fury about Victoria's betrayal and deception.
The realization that her father had died alone while she remained unaware of his condition created emotional devastation that challenged every foundation of strength and composure she had developed through years of military training. Mrs. Patterson's motivation for contacting Sarah stemmed from her knowledge of their close relationship and her conviction that David would never have approved of Victoria's actions regarding his possessions and military honors. She had obtained Sarah's military contact information from emergency documents that David had kept in his personal files, demonstrating his continued commitment to their relationship despite Victoria's apparent efforts to minimize family connections. The emergency leave process required complex coordination with Fleet Command authorities, while Sarah struggled to process the emotional implications of David's death and Victoria's incomprehensible betrayal. The authorization for immediate travel was approved within hours, though the logistics of transportation from Guam to Oregon created additional delays that increased Sarah's anxiety about the estate sale timeline. During the 30-hour journey from Pacific Operations to Seaside, Sarah's grief was compounded by growing anger about Victoria's deception and the systematic erasure of David's military legacy and family relationships that her actions represented. The betrayal extended far beyond property disposal to include fundamental violations of trust, honor, and respect for military service traditions. Sarah's arrival in Seaside confirmed Mrs. Patterson's reports about the scope and scale of Victoria's liquidation efforts. The house that had been David's home for over 30 years was virtually empty, with only basic furniture and personal items that Victoria intended to retain for her own use remaining in rooms that had once contained decades of military memorabilia and family photographs. The estate sale signs posted throughout the neighborhood advertised the disposal of military collectibles, vintage furniture, and household items without any indication of their sentimental value or the honorable service that many pieces represented. Victoria had reduced David's life and military career to commercial transactions that would benefit strangers rather than preserving items for family members who would treasure their emotional significance. Victoria's reaction to Sarah's unexpected arrival was defensive and hostile rather than sympathetic or apologetic. She claimed that David's deteriorating health had required immediate decisions about property disposal, and that his failure to maintain current contact information had made family notification impossible within reasonable timeframes.
Her explanations were contradicted by evidence that Sarah discovered throughout the house, including recent correspondence, military documents, and personal items that clearly indicated David's continued relationship with Sarah and his desire to maintain family connections despite geographic separation and communication challenges. The confrontation between Sarah and Victoria revealed the extent of deception and manipulation that had characterized Victoria's behavior throughout David's final months. She had apparently isolated David from external family contacts while presenting herself as his primary caregiver and decision-maker for all personal and financial matters. Victoria's legal authority to dispose of David's possessions was based on power of attorney documents and will modifications that had been executed during periods when David's health and cognitive function had been compromised by medication and medical procedures. The timing of these legal changes suggested manipulation of vulnerable circumstances rather than informed decision-making. Sarah's attempts to recover specific items of sentimental and military significance were met with Victoria's claims that most valuable pieces had already been sold to estate sale companies or private collectors who had made advance purchases based on inventory descriptions and photographs. The most devastating loss was David's collection of military decorations and awards, including the Purple Heart and Bronze Star that represented his combat service and personal sacrifice during multiple deployments. Victoria claimed these items had been sold to military memorabilia collectors, who had offered substantial payments for authentic decorations with proper documentation. David's personal photographs, including images from his military service and Sarah's childhood, had been disposed of as having no commercial value, according to Victoria's account. The systematic destruction of visual family history represented deliberate erasure of relationships and memories that had sustained David throughout his declining health. The furniture that had filled David's workshop, including tools and equipment that he had used to teach Sarah practical skills during her childhood, had been sold to contractors and woodworking enthusiasts who viewed the items as functional equipment rather than repositories of family memories and shared experiences. Books from David's military history collection, many containing his personal annotations and research notes from decades of study, had been donated to used bookstores where their intellectual and sentimental value would be lost among commercial inventory managed by people with no understanding of their significance. Sarah's legal consultation with a Seaside attorney revealed that Victoria's power of attorney and estate planning documents would be difficult to challenge without evidence of cognitive impairment or undue influence, which could be proven through medical records and witness testimony. The attorney explained that elderly individuals retain legal authority to modify estate planning even when family members disagree with their decisions, and that proving mental incompetence or manipulation required comprehensive documentation that was unlikely to be available given the timing and circumstances of David's legal document changes. However, the attorney also noted that certain military decorations and awards remained property of the federal government and could not be legally sold to private collectors without proper authorization and documentation that Victoria was unlikely to possess. The investigation into missing military decorations revealed that Victoria had indeed attempted to sell David's Purple Heart and Bronze Star through online auction platforms, but that alert veterans organizations had flagged the listings as potentially illegal and reported the sales to appropriate military authorities. Military Criminal Investigation Command personnel were contacted regarding the improper disposal of government property and potential violations of federal laws that protected military decorations from unauthorized commercial transactions. The investigation expanded when Sarah provided documentation of David's military service and her legal status as next of kin, establishing proper authority to recover military property that had been improperly disposed of by Victoria without legal authorization or legitimate ownership claims. Within 72 hours, federal investigators had traced several of David's military decorations to collectors and dealers who had purchased items through estate sale companies that had failed to verify Victoria's legal authority to dispose of government property. The recovery process required coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies, while Sarah provided detailed documentation of David's military service and her relationship as his legal heir for military honors and decorations that represented federal recognition of his service and sacrifice. Within 72 hours, federal investigators had traced several of David's military decorations to collectors and dealers who had purchased items through estate sale companies that had failed to verify Victoria's legal authority to dispose of government property.
The recovery process required coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies, while Sarah provided detailed documentation of David's military service and her relationship as his legal heir for military honors and decorations that represented federal recognition of his service and sacrifice.
Victoria's response to the federal investigation was panic and desperate attempts to claim ignorance about laws governing military decorations while providing contradictory explanations for her disposal of items that she had no legal authority to sell. The criminal investigation revealed that Victoria had received substantial payments for military items while misrepresenting her authority to dispose of government property, creating potential felony charges for theft of federal property and fraudulent commercial transactions. Sarah's interactions with federal investigators provided opportunities to document the full scope of Victoria's deception while establishing clear legal authority for recovering military property and pursuing civil remedies for wrongful disposal of personal property. The investigation timeline allowed Sarah to extend her emergency leave while coordinating with military legal authorities and civilian law enforcement agencies that were addressing various aspects of Victoria's illegal activities and fraudulent claims regarding David's estate. During this extended period in Seaside, Sarah began discovering additional evidence of Victoria's systematic isolation of David from family relationships and community connections that had previously provided emotional support and social engagement during his declining health. Conversations with neighbors and community members revealed that Victoria had discouraged visitors and social activities while claiming that David's medical condition required isolation and limited stimulation that made family contact inadvisable. Mrs. Patterson and other neighbors reported that David had repeatedly expressed desire to contact Sarah and maintain family relationships, but that Victoria had consistently intervened with claims that military communication requirements made contact difficult or impossible. The pattern of isolation and control that emerged from these conversations suggested deliberate manipulation designed to eliminate external oversight of Victoria's caregiving and decision-making while positioning herself as David's sole source of support and information. Medical records obtained through legal processes revealed that David's cognitive function had remained largely intact throughout his declining health, contradictory Victoria's claims that confusion and mental impairment had necessitated her assumption of decision-making authority for personal and financial matters. Healthcare providers who had treated David during his final months confirmed that he had repeatedly asked about contact with Sarah while expressing confusion about her apparent lack of communication and involvement in his care during medical procedures and recovery periods. The medical documentation supported Sarah's suspicions that Victoria had actively prevented communication while providing false information to healthcare providers about family relationships and contact preferences that influenced treatment decisions and care planning. Legal proceedings to recover David's possessions and pursue civil remedies against Victoria required extensive documentation and witness testimony that established the value of lost property while proving deliberate deception and unauthorized disposal of items with significant sentimental and monetary value. The estate recovery process was complicated by Victoria's claims that many items had been disposed of according to David's express wishes, and that she had acted in good faith based on information and authority that he had provided during competent decision-making periods. However, the investigation revealed financial records indicating that Victoria had retained proceeds from estate sales for her personal use rather than applying funds toward David's medical care or funeral expenses, as would be expected if disposals had been motivated by legitimate care requirements. The discovery that Victoria had used estate sale proceeds to make substantial purchases for her personal benefit while claiming that disposal had been necessary for David's care created additional evidence of fraudulent misrepresentation and self-dealing that strengthened legal claims for recovery and damages. Sarah's growing understanding of Victoria's betrayal extended beyond property theft to include recognition of the emotional abuse and manipulation that had characterized David's final months, when he should have received love, respect, and dignity during his declining health and approaching death. The realization that David had died believing that Sarah had abandoned him or lost interest in maintaining their relationship created grief that was almost unbearable, combined with fury about Victoria's deliberate destruction of family bonds that had sustained both father and daughter throughout years of military separation.
Witness accounts from neighbors and healthcare providers confirmed that David had maintained hope for reconciliation with Sarah while expressing confusion and sadness about her apparent absence during his medical crises and recovery periods when family support would have been most meaningful and helpful. The legal proceedings against Victoria attracted attention from local media outlets that covered military family issues and elder abuse cases, creating public awareness of the systematic theft and emotional manipulation that had characterized her treatment of a veteran during his final months. Military veterans organizations became involved in supporting Sarah's efforts to recover military property while advocating for stronger legal protections against fraudulent disposal of military decorations by individuals without proper authority or legitimate ownership claims. The federal investigation resulted in criminal charges against Victoria for theft of government property, fraud in connection with military decorations, and elder abuse related to her financial exploitation of David during his period of medical vulnerability. Her conviction on multiple felony charges carried significant prison sentences while establishing legal precedents for protecting military property and preventing similar exploitation of veterans by individuals who gained access to military decorations through marriage or caregiver relationships. The civil litigation against Victoria resulted in substantial monetary judgments that required compensation for the value of stolen property while providing punitive damages that reflected the egregious nature of her betrayal and emotional abuse of David during his final months. However, Victoria's financial resources were limited, making full recovery of monetary damages unlikely despite legal victories that established her liability and provided moral vindication for Sarah's efforts to hold her accountable for theft and abuse. The most meaningful recovery was the return of David's military decorations and awards that had been traced through the federal investigation and retrieved from collectors who had unknowingly purchased stolen government property through Victoria's fraudulent transactions. Sarah's restoration of David's Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and other military honors provided emotional satisfaction that transcended monetary considerations, while ensuring that his service and sacrifice would be properly preserved and honored according to military traditions and family respect. The process of rebuilding David's military memorial and preserving his legacy required creating new displays and documentation that honored his service while acknowledging the challenges he had faced during his final months under Victoria's care and manipulation. Sarah's establishment of a scholarship fund in David's memory provided positive channeling of her grief while creating opportunities for other military families to receive educational support that reflected his values of service, education, and character development. The scholarship program was administered through veteran organizations and educational institutions that ensured proper stewardship while extending David's positive influence to future generations of military families who shared his commitment to service and excellence. During the legal proceedings and recovery efforts, Sarah had maintained her military responsibilities through remote coordination with USS Freedom personnel while working with Navy leadership to address family emergency requirements that had extended far beyond typical bereavement leave allocations. Her commanding officer and Navy personnel systems demonstrated exceptional flexibility and support, while recognizing that the complexity of legal proceedings and criminal investigations required extended absence from normal duties to address family obligations and legal requirements. The resolution of legal matters allowed Sarah to return to her executive officer responsibilities aboard USS Freedom while carrying forward lessons learned from David's death and Victoria's betrayal that would influence her approach to family relationships and military service throughout her remaining naval career. The experience had demonstrated both the importance of maintaining family connections despite military demands and the vulnerability that elderly veterans faced when isolated from family oversight by individuals who prioritized personal gain over proper care and respect for military service. Sarah's return to shipboard duties was accompanied by renewed appreciation for military values of honor, loyalty, and integrity that contrasted sharply with Victoria's betrayal, while reinforcing her commitment to serving with distinction and maintaining the kind of character that David had exemplified throughout his military and civilian life.
Her performance as executive officer continued exceeding expectations while incorporating leadership lessons learned through adversity and personal challenge that enhanced her ability to support crew members facing their own family difficulties and personal crises during military service. The USS Freedom deployment schedule during the following months included operations that supported humanitarian missions and regional security objectives that provided meaningful purpose while allowing Sarah to channel
her grief and anger into positive contributions to military effectiveness and mission accomplishment. Her technical expertise in cybersecurity and information warfare continued developing through advanced training and operational experience that positioned her for promotion and eventual command opportunities that would allow broader influence on naval operations and strategic planning. Communication with Mrs. Patterson and other Seaside community members continued providing connections to David's memory while ensuring that his positive influence on family and neighbors would be preserved through shared stories and community recognition of his character and service. The legal precedents established through prosecution of Victoria's crimes created stronger protections for military families while raising awareness about elder abuse and exploitation that could affect other veterans during periods of medical vulnerability and family transition. Sarah's advocacy for improved legal protections and family communication protocols influenced military policy discussions about maintaining family connections during deployments while ensuring that elderly veterans received appropriate oversight and protection from potential abuse or exploitation. However, the most significant development emerging from the legal proceedings and property recovery efforts was Sarah's decision to use financial resources and military expertise to pursue a form of justice that would directly impact Victoria's life in ways that criminal prosecution and civil litigation could not address. The investigation had revealed that Victoria's primary motivation for her relationship with David had been financial security and property acquisition, rather than genuine affection or commitment to marriage and family relationships that should have characterized their partnership. Financial records obtained through legal discovery showed that Victoria had been systematically depleting David's savings and veteran benefits while positioning herself to inherit his property and military survivor benefits through marriage and estate planning manipulation that exploited his declining health and social isolation. Her long-term strategy had apparently included plans to sell David's house following his death, while claiming military survivor benefits and veteran health care coverage that would provide ongoing financial security for her retirement and personal lifestyle preferences. The house on Elm Street where David had lived for over 30 years represented his largest asset and the foundation of Victoria's financial planning for post-marriage security that would allow comfortable retirement without employment or independent financial resources. Sarah's research into Victoria's background and financial situation revealed that she had limited retirement savings, minimal Social Security benefits, and no substantial assets beyond what she expected to inherit from David's estate and survivor benefit programs. The house had appreciated significantly in value during David's ownership, representing substantial equity that Victoria expected to access through sale or refinancing following David's death and completion of estate settlement procedures. However, the criminal convictions and civil judgments against Victoria had created legal complications that affected her ability to claim estate assets while she faced potential prison sentences and substantial financial penalties that would consume much of her expected inheritance. Sarah's investigation of Victoria's financial vulnerabilities revealed opportunities for legal and strategic responses that could create consequences more personally devastating than criminal prosecution alone, while remaining within ethical and legal boundaries for pursuing justice. The discovery that Victoria had been planning to purchase a specific house in a nearby upscale neighborhood following David's death provided Sarah with information about her stepmother's aspirations and expectations that could become targets for strategic intervention and disruption. Victoria had apparently made preliminary arrangements to purchase a renovated Victorian mansion in the hills above Seaside, using anticipated proceeds from David's estate sale and survivor benefits to finance a lifestyle upgrade that would reflect her desired social status and retirement comfort. The house represented Victoria's dream property and retirement goal that she had discussed with real estate agents and neighbors as her intended residence following completion of estate settlement and inheritance procedures that would provide necessary financial resources. Sarah's military salary and accumulated savings, combined with investment returns and Navy advancement opportunities, had provided substantial financial resources that could support strategic interventions in Victoria's real estate plans while creating opportunities for justice that extended beyond legal proceedings. The decision to purchase Victoria's dream house emerged from Sarah's analysis of available legal remedies and her conclusion that conventional justice through criminal prosecution and civil litigation would not adequately directly address the scope of Victoria's betrayal and emotional damage that her actions had created. Victoria's conviction on criminal charges would result in prison sentences and financial penalties, but would not directly impact her long-term plans for comfortable retirement using assets that she had obtained through manipulation and abuse of David during his vulnerable final months. Sarah's research revealed that the Victorian mansion had been listed for sale at a price that exceeded Victoria's financial resources, even with access to David's estate proceeds, but that remained within Sarah's purchasing capability using military savings and investment portfolios that had grown substantially during her naval career. The strategic decision to purchase Victoria's dream house represented both symbolic justice and practical intervention that would prevent her from achieving the comfortable retirement that she had planned using stolen assets, while ensuring that David's legacy would be preserved through positive family stewardship rather than exploitation. Sarah's real estate attorney facilitated a cash purchase of the Victorian mansion that preempted Victoria's planned acquisition, while establishing legal ownership that would prevent future purchase attempts regardless of Victoria's financial resources or estate settlement outcomes. The purchase process was conducted discreetly through legal intermediaries and corporate structures that prevented Victoria from learning about Sarah's involvement until after closing procedures had been completed and ownership transfer had been legally finalized. Sarah's decision to occupy the house personally, rather than treating it as investment property, reflected her commitment to establishing permanent residence in Seaside that would honor David's memory while ensuring ongoing community connections and veteran support activities that continued his positive influence. The house renovation and restoration projects provided opportunities to create memorial spaces and displays that honored David's military service while establishing gathering places for veteran organizations and community activities that reflected his values and commitment to service. Victoria's discovery that her dream house had been purchased by another buyer created immediate disappointment and frustration that was compounded when she learned through neighborhood sources that the new owner was David's daughter, whom she had attempted to isolate and exclude from family relationships. The revelation that Sarah had not only survived Victoria's attempts at family destruction, but had achieved sufficient financial success to purchase property that Victoria could not afford, created a form of justice that directly contradicted her assumptions about military families and career limitations. Sarah's establishment of residence in the Victorian mansion provided ongoing visibility within the Seaside community while ensuring that Victoria would be constantly reminded of her failed manipulations and the success of the family relationships she had attempted to destroy. The house became a gathering place for military families and veteran organizations that honored David's memory while providing support services and community activities that reflected his commitment to helping other veterans and their families navigate military life challenges. Sarah's decision to display David's recovered military decorations and create memorial spaces within the house ensured that his service and sacrifice would be preserved and honored according to military traditions, while providing educational opportunities for community members and visiting veteran families. The contrast between Sarah's positive use of financial resources to honor family relationships and support community activities, compared to Victoria's attempted exploitation of military service for personal gain, created visible demonstrations of character differences that influenced community perceptions and relationships. Victoria's social isolation within the Seaside community was compounded by her criminal convictions and the widespread knowledge of her betrayal of David during his final months, creating lasting consequences that affected her ability to rebuild social relationships and community standing.
The prison sentences resulting from her criminal convictions required temporary relocation that removed Victoria from Seaside entirely while allowing community healing and restoration of positive military-family relationships that she had attempted to undermine through manipulation and deception. Sarah's military career continued advancing during this period, with selection for promotion to commander and assignment to strategic planning roles that would utilize her expertise in cybersecurity and information warfare while providing opportunities for broader influence on naval operations and policy development. Her success in balancing military responsibilities with family obligations and community service demonstrated leadership capabilities that exceeded normal career development while providing positive examples for other military families facing similar challenges with service commitments and family relationships. The scholarship program established in David's memory continued expanding through additional funding and partnership relationships with educational institutions that served military families, creating lasting positive impact that extended his influence to future generations of service members and their children.
Sarah's speaking engagements with military organizations and veteran groups provided opportunities to share lessons learned from family challenges while advocating for improved support systems and legal protections that could prevent other military families from experiencing similar betrayal and exploitation. The legal precedents established through prosecution of Victoria's crimes influenced policy discussions and legislative initiatives that strengthened protections for elderly veterans while improving communication protocols that maintained family connections during military deployments and family emergencies. However, the most meaningful outcome of Sarah's strategic response to Victoria's betrayal was the restoration of David's legacy and the preservation of military family values that transcended individual achievement to include service, sacrifice, and commitment to supporting others who faced similar challenges. The Victorian mansion became a symbol of positive military-family relationships while providing practical support for veteran organizations and community activities that honored service while addressing ongoing needs within the military community. Sarah's decision to pursue strategic justice through real estate acquisition and community engagement, rather than limiting responses to conventional legal remedies, demonstrated creative approaches to accountability that achieved results beyond what criminal prosecution alone could provide. The ongoing visibility of David's memorial displays and Sarah's community involvement ensured that Victoria's crimes and betrayal would be remembered within accurate historical context while preventing revision or minimization of her actions through time or social forgiveness that might otherwise obscure the severity of her offenses. Victoria's eventual release from prison was accompanied by community awareness and legal restrictions that limited her ability to exploit other elderly veterans or rebuild the social relationships that she had damaged through her treatment of David during his final months. The permanent loss of her dream house and retirement plans represented consequences that extended far beyond legal penalties, while ensuring that her exploitation of military service would not result in the comfortable lifestyle that she had planned using stolen assets and manipulated inheritance procedures. Sarah's establishment of permanent residence in Seaside provided ongoing community connections and veteran support activities that honored David's memory while ensuring that his positive influence would continue through meaningful service to other military families and community members. The house served as headquarters for veteran support programs and military family assistance activities that addressed practical needs while preserving military traditions and values that David had exemplified throughout his life and service. Sarah's naval career continued reaching new levels of achievement and responsibility while maintaining strong community connections that demonstrated successful integration of military service with family obligations and civic engagement that enriched both personal and professional development. Her expertise in cybersecurity and strategic planning contributed to important national security initiatives, while her leadership experience provided valuable perspectives on military family issues and veteran support requirements that influenced policy development and resource allocation decisions. The balance between military advancement and community service created a legacy that honored David's memory while extending his positive influence through expanded opportunities for supporting other military families and addressing challenges that affected veteran communities. Victoria's permanent exile from the comfortable retirement she had planned using stolen military assets represented ultimate accountability for her betrayal while ensuring that David's sacrifice and service would be remembered and honored according to appropriate military traditions and family respect. The Victorian mansion stood as permanent testament to the failure of Victoria's manipulative strategies while demonstrating the success of military family values and the ultimate triumph of honor, loyalty, and integrity over greed, deception, and exploitation. Sarah's transformation of personal tragedy into community service and veteran support activities provided positive channeling of grief while creating lasting benefits that extended David's influence far beyond what he could have achieved through individual action alone. The story of Victoria's betrayal and Sarah's strategic response became part of military family folklore that educated other service members about potential vulnerabilities while demonstrating effective approaches to protecting family relationships and preserving military traditions despite challenges created by deceptive and manipulative individuals.
The ongoing success of scholarship programs, veteran support activities, and community engagement initiatives established through Sarah's leadership ensured that David's legacy would continue influencing positive military-family relationships and veteran welfare for generations beyond his individual service and sacrifice. Victoria's failed attempt to exploit military service for personal gain served as cautionary example, while Sarah's successful response demonstrated the ultimate power of military values and family commitment to overcome betrayal and create positive outcomes that honored service while supporting continuing military family excellence and community engagement. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.